Okay guys, 4Runner tailgate repair, and you can see where I patched it before. There was damage here and damage right here. So the whole tailgate kind of sinks in right there, if you could see that. And there's damage here, so I patched it. But in doing so, this kind of collapsed also because of how it was pushed in right there when there's damage. Now I have this off the parts runner. And I should have did a better job of cutting it initially when I cut this patch panel out, but I have this left over. What's perfect is it sits right in that groove. And you can see from here that when I line it up, it sits flush right there. There's the gap in the middle, and then it sits flush towards the end. So what I'm gonna do is there's a couple options. I'm gonna cut this out, brace on the inside underneath this part with like aluminum, and it should help, either aluminum or wood, and keep this up, and I can tack this piece in place. Now I'm not sure if I want to avoid this body line here, so I might come up above that, maybe half an inch. And you can see as I set that down into the recess right there, the skin is kind of bowed up. So I might be able to tack that leading edge in, or that top edge in right there, and then push this down and then tack it in. But we'll give it a shot. All right, guys, so I have this cut, and I even trimmed it a little bit, about 1/4 inch off the bottom. And the patch panel is being held in place by these Cleco clamps. If you've never seen these before, they're used in the aircraft industry, but yeah, they narrow, then they get wider when you release. So I drilled about an 1/8 inch hole, or a number 30 drill bit if you have one of those, but I just wallered it out a little bit with the drill. Boom. And these are Cleco pliers. You can get them on Amazon, get a bunch of them, different sizes. These work good to just hold it in place, and don't worry about those holes. You can just weld it up because you're gonna be welding anyway. Just do a little tack weld on it, grind it down. But you can see the gap is still there even when I push this down because of the damage. So I'm gonna trim just maybe 6 inches. I'm gonna trim a little bit with the cutoff wheel at a 45-degree angle this way, so the gap's not that big. And then from the backside, I'm gonna push up and support it, and then do a tack weld. Do another couple inches right here, do another tack weld, then another, and then we'll just move along, lifting up as I tack weld, cutting at a 45 right here, so the gap at the top isn't like this, it's a lot smaller because of the angle. Oh, also, just to cutting these strips, I use these shears from Bauer. You can get them at Harbor Freight. We don't have a Harbor Freight up here in Alaska where I live, so I had to smuggle these ones in. But yeah, they're awesome, electric, and it's Harbor Freight. You probably have one down the street or somewhere near you. It trims off really straight line. You could use a cutoff wheel, cutoff disc, but I can't cut that straight. I always cut crooked, so yeah. So these shears, I recommend getting some if you're going to be doing patch panels and whatnot. All right, so I've been doing little spot welds, and from the inside of the tailgate, I've been using 2x4s, put it in there, and then use it to prop up the tailgate because it was bowed in this way. So I would use the 2x4 underneath to lift it so it would meet this blue patch panel, because if I pushed the blue patch panel down to the tailgate, it would have still left me with that bow shape. And you can see now when you look down the side, it's more pronounced the way it should be. It has that angle, it's not dipped in. And these spot welds are horrible right now. but a grinder and paint makes you the welder you ain't. So we'll continue. I've been just taking the cutoff wheel, coming in at an angle right here, just like this. So my cut line is a lot thinner. If I were to come in this way, just straight down, it'd make those gaps a lot wider, and that's not what you want. You just want them thin enough to where you can get flex. I've been just using my hammer right here to make sure it's flush, and then I'll throw a tack, and then every couple inches just throw a tack. And you notice here this is still sitting on top of the tailgate because I don't want this floating out in La La Land while I'm trying to get this flush here. So that's helping me out, holding it where it needs to be. I'll throw in a tack right here, cut that. I'll probably throw in a couple tacks. Throw a tack right there, flush that up, and then we'll get this corner done. So on the back side of our panel here, we need to pull this guy back out. As we've been cutting and welding, we can retrieve our chunk that we cut out here. And there we go. Alright guys, so we got this welded up. And before I start grinding all this down, there's one more patch I need to do. So we're going to flip it over, take care of that patch, and then we'll grind it all up together. Alright guys, so I got the piece cut out. I got it cleaned up on both sides. And I'm probably going to cut from here down. And what I want to do is I want to just stay on the flattest lines possible for welding. It's just going to make the job a whole lot easier. So I might take the hammer, punch this out, because the panel won't sit flush because of that nut that's welded on the back. So I can use the holes as reference to line it up, but it won't sit flush. So I'm going to knock that out or use the hole saw. Just get rid of that, so that way the nut sits flush. And then I can mark out, trace it with the paint pen, and then trim this down so it sits flush where I want it, and then we'll just start tacking it in. Alright, the old body hammer. Just took care of that really quick. And now I can line that up using that hole as reference. And that's where I decided to cut it. About right there, right on that flat spot right before that groove. Right where it flattens out. Boom, we'll cut it there. Still be able to use that drain hole as reference. And there's the new bolt hole. Boom. Alright guys, so I drilled a hole right there just so I can cleco this into place. Right here on the flat spot. And I'm going to use just this number 2 pencil right here. Just stick that in the hole so my filler piece doesn't move around. But you see that corner, how it's like sitting almost in the radius right there? I'm going to trim that up a little bit, clean it up, and then we'll be able to drill another hole here. Boom. And then weld it in. And we're just going to be treating the rusty metal with this Ospo. Just going to get it wet, keep it wet for about 20 minutes. Neutralize it with like water, and then we'll use some acetone to dry it off, and then we'll get some paint on it. Okay, so I have the patch panel all ready. I used some self-etch weld-through primer just for right now, and we're gonna install this bad boy and cut and butt it. Okay guys, so I can only cut so far down before I hit that bottom lip. Before I hit that bottom lip right there. So I cut along the bottom this way. along the bottom that way. Then I cut as far as I could without hitting that lip. And it's not the best tool, but I used the hacksaw with the carbide Diablo blade, and I put it in there and cut that. So now it's a little bent, but we'll be able to push it in. The gap's a little big, but we'll be able to weld it up.